Black Live, we have our A player. Not that Tom Dienhart is also an A player, but Mike Bobinski is an A player, and he always interjects some enthusiasm and a fair amount of knowledge to our show, and always gracious to join us. And Mike, nothing going on this weekend. Every year you have that build up, and we all kind of wait for all this thing to happen, and then it finally does happen, and then it's over before you know it. It seems like. But have you had any in your professional career? Probably not many times you've had more excitement heading into a season than this one.
No. I think we're all very enthused about what's to come, and anxious to see how it looks and how it feels. Without a doubt, we're still a team that's in the development process. I mean, all you have to do is look at the two deep, and you see all these young guys littered throughout there, which is a good news, maybe not as good a news scenario. Bodes very well, I think, for the future. But I think the near term is going to be pretty good too. I think once they get acclimated to the college game and really get their legs underneath them, there's some very, very talented young guys that I think will acquit themselves well.
Yeah.
I mean, with the way Jeff Brom's first 2 years have gone, it almost seems like a dream scenario in a lot of ways. I mean, if you could have envisioned, at least I guess I'll speak for myself, Purdue getting the bowls in Jeff Brom's first 2 years. I mean, the momentum that he's been able to establish, and I got to imagine how that's carried over to the rest of the athletic department, has to be pretty significant.
No, it's absolutely, Tom, been a real positive across the board. I mean, not just for the football program, but for our entire athletic program, and even for, I think, for other parts of the university. I mean, I think it's, the positive vibe, the positive energy that's been developed around football, even without us killing it yet. So, we haven't won 12 games last time I checked, but in any one year, but I think you can see a clear progression. You can see a build from where we were, a creation of a culture, an expectation of success, and that absolutely is having an impact across the board. And and that will continue to grow here in the years ahead, in my opinion.
Yeah. August 9th, 2016. I think I'm still sweating from being in Mitch Daniels' conference room, which is about as big as this table. Now, I knew I had not. We usually pride ourselves on having a clue on who it was going to be. We did not. Mike Berghoff has been killing us on this on these searches of late. But so I didn't know that it was Mike at all until I got in my car and somebody said, "Oh, I think it's Mike Bobinski." But anyway, I knew you were a cool cucumber only because you didn't. You probably were sweating, but that was the hottest room I've ever been in. But my question is. You look at a job like Purdue, and you talked about it then, but this potential that you now are starting to realize, has it exceeded what you expected, or as you evaluated this thing, you said this is a place that's ripe for this type of opportunity?
Well, I think the opportunity is pretty much in line with what I thought it could be. What has exceeded my expectation is how quickly our people have come back to the football program.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
that's been remarkable and much appreciated. And while it's really been great, and it matters. It truly makes a difference. Without that, we won't have the program that we want, that everybody wants us to have.
Yeah.
That being said, we've still got a little room to grow. We're not 57,000 strong every time we tee it up here, and we need to be. I mean, that is what the best programs in the country do. They have that unquestioned and full-on support each and every time, and it makes a difference to the current players. It makes a difference to recruits. It creates that vibe and that energy that gives you a true home field advantage. But that being said, I'm grateful for what our fans have done. It's been really positive and more so than I might have expected. If we've all looked back and seen some of those pictures from 16 and 15, late season games where you could have fired many weapons around the stadium and not nicked anybody, and that's no longer the case, which is a good thing.
Yeah, no question.
And the ticket sales, can you talk a little bit about ticket sales? Tell us what you know going into 2019.
Sure. We're trending ahead of where we were a year ago at this time for every game except we had that Ohio State sort of marquee game. However, the game that sort of lines up with that this year from a schedule and timing perspective, Illinois, is just right behind it. I mean, so it's really not it's not far off. We're in a good spot as we move into the home opener next Saturday. But there's still room to go. I mean, we've had a great student response, which is awesome and against the trend line for most people around the country who are struggling to get students interested. We have the direct opposite. You know, we have sold out of our student season boarding passes. We had to cap it, but then we've still got a couple thousand individual games, student tickets that we know will go. So we'll have 12,000 plus in there, student wise, which is great. And that's 20% of our stadium, you know, more so, and that's really pretty strong.
And that some of the new amenities this year, and we want to talk a little bit about what's to come, but the ribbon board that goes almost from stem to stern of the north end of that stadium. Tell us a little bit about that. And it's we've seen the lights on and seen all the all those kinds of things. How is that project coming and everything on schedule from that standpoint?
Sure, and the ribbon board is fully up at this point in time. It's operational. They've installed the back graphic panels on the back end to sort of finish it off. And for me and for our program, I think it was, you know, we've talked for a couple of years now about continuing to show progress, continuing to make investments that make sense and add something to what we're doing. Last year it was the sound system, which people did or didn't note, but those that paid attention, it was distinctly better than it was in previous years. This year, adding that ribbon board in the north end zone, the little bit that I've seen it in action, I mean, it's pretty impactful.
Yeah,
I mean, it adds an element to the game. It adds just a little bit more feeling of modern and technology and things that other people are doing. And I think we'll add some really nice game support features. So I've watched it during a couple practice sessions and said, boy, you can't help but see it out there. And it also adds a little dimension to the stadium, kind of like sort of like the light poles did when we installed the lights a couple years ago. You know, it sort of changes the look of the north end zone. It brings it a little closer to the action from perception standpoint.
agreed.
And that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. And even from the outside, it gives a little bit more substance to that north end of the stadium from the R lot.
And you know, peeking around the corner, we always like to look ahead.
Yeah.
I've talked to you numerous times, it seems like, about the south end zone scoreboard, and
Yeah.
that's going to be an enhancement for 2020. Sort of talk about some of the plans there.
The Board of Trustees approved at their August meeting us moving forward with that project. So at the end of our season this year, and shortly thereafter, after we play our last home game, Thanksgiving weekend, that structure that's there now will all come down. I mean, so the existing the brick structure and facade, all of that comes down, and we'll install a brand new scoreboard for the 2020 season. It'll be as impactful as that north end zone board is. This will be even more so because it's just bigger. It's got more real estate. It will
Almost sideline to sideline?
Almost sideline to sideline, and it'll actually be positioned closer to the field than the current board. So not only is it bigger, it's going to come up closer. So it'll feel like you're in your basement watching the big screen in lots of ways. So I think it'll be a really nice step forward for us. And again, it's really not optional at this point. The existing board is, people have heard me say this many times, but it's on its literally last
You hope you make it
legs,
through.
limping to the finish line here, and we hope we get it there.
One of the things that happens on this show is we take questions, and we've gotten a lot on our message boards as well. Some of them which we try to cover indirectly. Someone had asked, and this becomes an involved process, but how do you cap student season tickets when season tickets remain? And there's some logistical issues that you have to deal with. If it's possible to get the elevator version, because I've heard the whole version.
Yeah.
It's complicated, but
Sure.
there is a commitment from Mitch Daniels on down. Wants students in the stadium.
No question.
No question. I know there's a monetary difference, but I'll let you talk.
There's all of that.
Yeah.
So, again, we feel like the 12,000 plus that we'll have in the stadium is really significant, and it's distinctly different than the 6,000 or 7,000 we had just a few years ago. So it's nearly double in terms of.
And it's going to meet demand for the most part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we're not leaving students out.
No. We are for the most part meeting the demand. The reason we capped the season number is because we are selling full public season tickets, mini plans, and other things in sections that are important from a sales perspective. And there is clearly a revenue difference.
Yeah.
The student seats are very, very deeply discounted. It's for basketball, football, all of our other charged sports. At this point in time, it's $99 total for the entire year's worth of sporting activities at Purdue for a student. if we filled the whole stadium with $99 tickets, we'd be out of business. I mean, we literally would go.
You and
belly-
I'd be having breakfast at
we-
Denny's,
we-
right?
We'd be belly up. So
Or Triple X.
honestly, there's an economic
Yeah.
reality to the mix of public season tickets, public individual game tickets, student tickets, and we've got to maintain some sense of balance there in order to make the economic wheel go round.
Plus, you can't put student sections all over the place where you have general public. There's issues
Right,
with all those kind of
there's
things.
that
So,
also,
yeah,
all of it.
All right, so that's an interesting.
But we love the students.
Oh, yeah, and you're going to have a
They're
pretty good
awesome.
stuff.
They're awesome.
Tell us a little about, the difficulty and the challenge, certainly, of emotionally dealing with Tyler Trent's saga last year, and yet it brought a wonderful inspiration to all of us, to be quite frank. You're gonna have a big presentation for the Vanderbilt game, but even from your perspective and looking at this from someone that's lived years, that what this means to not only the program but just the people that are involved with it.
You know, it was maybe the most unique circumstance that I've ever been part of in having done this for a long, long time. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it, anything that was as galvanizing and as universally meaningful to so many different people, not just our local community, not just the broader Purdue community, but others, opponents, and unrelated, sort of maybe sports disinterested people were touched by that story. So it was a very, very unique thing, and I think it's all of our obligation to make sure that we honor Tyler's memory, we honor the wishes, we honor the work that he did for the cause that meant so much to him personally, where he literally just gave himself to it, trying to advance the research and the awareness of pediatric cancer. And I mean, that's what we're trying to do now, and do that in the most tasteful and appropriate way, but really to carry on that legacy as we move forward.
And is there going to be a ceremony of some sort pre-Vanderbilt, or how's
There
that
will
gonna work?
be a brief ceremony at the student gate.
Okay.
President Daniels, Mike Berghoff, the Trent family, students, others, myself, we will all be there. We'll have sort of an unveiling and a
So in the 10-ish
dedication.
time frame, or
Around 10
because the
o'clock.
game's at
Around-
noon now. That's right. So.
Around 10ish that morning. We don't believe there'll be any issue getting people there. I mean, certainly the students already be queued up, so we'll have a lot of students already there, and I'm sure that our fans will find their way over there to create a sense of an event, which it deserves to be.
Yeah, there'll be more of that on
Coach
social,
Fromm will come over
Yeah.
actually when the team arrives.
which they come up there as well.
Yes.
And there'll be more of that on Purdue's social media
Yeah.
channels and PurdueSports.com, and we'll certainly be covering that as well. Tom, I think I interrupted you. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you mentioned Mitch Daniels,
Yeah.
and just talk about what he's meant to the athletic department, because everything in every organization begins at the very top. That's where the buy-in has to be, and talk about having him behind athletics, maybe what that's meant to your cause.
I think what's important, and most important about President Daniels is that he expects excellence in every corner, in everything that Purdue does. And when I was going through the interview process and speaking with him, he made very clear that athletics was very much part of that. I mean, it was not going to be acceptable for athletics to sort of limp along and just exist, but that if we were going to pursue excellence in that arena, like we do in so many other things at Purdue, and sending that message, and then being involved and being interested and being aware. I mean, President Daniels is one of the most uniquely knowledgeable and voracious consumers of information and the ability to be connected in a broad way of any individual. I've never seen anybody like it. I mean, he knows what's going on in about every corner of our program. When I go in to meet with him we meet every 2 weeks on a standing meeting. We see each other all the time, but he many times he knows more about what's going on in certain programs than I do. And I walk out and say, God bless, I gotta pick up my game here, because I'm falling a little short. But that matters. I mean, our coaches feel that. Our student athletes feel that. They feel his interest, his concern, his support, his desire for them to be great. And that when it comes from the very top, that makes a difference. It has an impact.
Question about the current status of the finances, something that Mitch Daniels and Mike Bobinski pay a lot of attention to, though, in the department, in terms of you're going to have to raise money to get what you want done in the stadium. I mean, people think, well, just because it's been announced, you got some heavy lifting still to do.
Very much so.
That's always a factor when you've built a football performance complex. Mackey Arena's not all that old, et cetera. Tell us about that, though, in terms of not only the importance of television money, but raising money, and where you feel like you are with respect to your peers from a broad stroke view of the athletic department finances.
You know, I think we're working hard to keep it all in an economically sound and viable
Yeah.
structure. You know, the objective at Purdue has always been to run our program self-sufficiently, float the boat on its own bottom, and we're continuing to do that. We're very fortunate these last couple of years. We've had positive net results, not wildly positive,
Yeah.
but positive nevertheless. But what we are limited as we look ahead, for instance, the North End Ribbon Board, the South End Zone Scoreboard, the schematic design project for Ross 8, all of that is being funded through private donations,
Yeah.
every single dollar. There's not a dollar coming out of our budget because there's no room in our budget. And as we look ahead to the bigger Ross 8 transformation project that will occur, that will be one where we will raise every dollar privately to make that happen, because we don't have the capacity to take on additional debt right now. It would be an unwise move,
Yeah.
and I would be saddling my successors, whomever they might be, and for however long it might be, with a debt load that would be unwise and unfair, and they'd be cursing me, you know, from here to the end of the road, and I don't need that.
Yeah.
So.
And, you know, I talked to you after the Board of Trustee meetings earlier this month. The ribbon board's paid for.
Yes.
The South End Zone scoreboard's paid for. The
Yep.
schematic designs are already paid for.
Yep.
I guess kind of give viewers an idea of, I guess, what's next on the timeline. When will we see renderings?
Sure.
Just sort of give us a general idea of maybe what we should anticipate as far as the Ross 8 project moving forward.
Sure. So the schematic design project that you referred to, while we have the funding in place, we haven't done the work yet. So that is what's really next, is taking the concepts that we worked on in the last eight or 9 months that were sort of 30,000 foot broad what ifs, how it might look as we move forward, and some of the major elements we might want to deal with, and really taking that down to a much greater degree of detail, really making some decisions about what's in and what's out, or what are the alternates in the project, then putting together a plan potentially for how we might sequence the project if we don't get all the dollars up front. Although our great hope is that we can deliver this project in one big chunk. I think that's the most impactful and the most meaningful way to do it. But that's all going to be dictated by the pace of fundraising and the ability of us to make all that happen. This schematic design project, Tom, will happen over the next, my guess is 8 to 10 months.
Okay.
It'll take some real time, and it'll take some real work, and it'll take some cost estimating. Once you get to a design,
Right.
then you can really go out to the construction world and say, okay, what's it cost to do these things? You know, there's some rough estimation on the front end, so you're not dreaming up things that you clearly can't do. But once you get it to that point of, hey, these are the elements we really want to see included, this is the program that we want to move forward with, what's it going to cost? And then we really know what our target is fundraising wise, and that will in lots of ways inform how long this thing takes to actually get done. I mean, ideally, I think in a perfect world, if we could have this thing underway in 3 years, you know, you got a year of design coming up, then you're going to have another year and a half or so of fundraising, getting dollars in hand to make it go. That would be probably the most realistic. If we can do it sooner, hell, I'd love to do it sooner. I mean, I'd love to do it tomorrow, but that's not. You know, we've got to understand that there's a process and a systematic way that we're going to have to go about this.
Yeah.
It's exciting. The concepts that I've seen, I mean, I think would be unbelievably transforming for Ross 8 and change the experience and set us up for years and years of having a facility that would support success at a really high level. So I'm really excited about this next phase, because we're really going to take those concepts and get it to the next level of detail.
All right, we're going to let Mike take a breath, and we'd offer him a beer, but with maybe water in between. And we'll take a 2-minute break and come back for our last segment of Gold and Black Live. Stay tuned.